Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard the TV Pilot's License Flight number 29 with service to Bon Tom, Louisiana. We ask that you please fasten your headphones at this time, secure your podcasting device, and remember that if your neighbor happens to be a vampire and you are in a window seat, please make sure to shut your window. It's just a courtesy. And be polite, don't stare, no photos, they won't come out anyways.
Welcome to the TV Pilot's License. My name is Jeff Kurbis, joined by Max Singer and Rich Inman. How you boys doing today?
Oh, I do say I am mighty good today, Jeff. We got a lot to talk about, and I am more nervous than a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I said, no one makes a fool out of the people of Bon Tom, Louisiana, except in the Lord himself.
Oh, jeez. And considering I'm the only one who was technically raised in the South, I am really put back here. Well, gentlemen, this week we are speaking about HBO's True Blood. Really, given that True Blood is now being syndicated on TNT, I have a lot of questions about how long the episodes are, given some of the things we saw, but...
You ever watch Forrest Gump on TBS? It's like 3 times as long.
But before we venture this week into this fantasy sexy thriller, it appears that a dark, mysterious stranger has come on board this flight and ordered a True Blood, or maybe just some Bloody Mary mix. Our guest this week is the host of the Trashy Trashy podcast, where they take a look at, a dumpster dive on the week's garbage, people, and a look at all of the trashiest news stories. Please welcome Erika Curry. Erika, thanks for joining.
Welcome.
Erika, welcome.
I do declare it's an honor to be here.
Everyone gets one but Jeff.
No,
Yeah,
I'm
I was raised in Oklahoma, so I kind of describe myself
there
like
we go.
the South or the Midwest, depending on if
South
you think we're
adjacent. It's one
racist
of
or
those-
boring. Yeah, it's kind of a toss-up.
I am so excited for today's improvised Tennessee Williams play.
Yeah, welcome to Off Book, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, for those of you who might be finding our podcast for the first time, or those of you who might be here for Erika, Max, do you mind telling folks what this podcast is all about?
So here at TV Pilot's License, we take a look at some of TV's most famous, or in some cases, infamous pilot episodes. We figure out how these shows came to be, get to know a little bit more about their creators and writers, and we discuss whether or not we think they could be made today and if they're effective in making us want to watch more of the series. We've got a whole bank of episodes wherever you get your podcasts from, so go and find a show you'd love and enjoy. Take a listen to something you've never seen before but have always wanted to check out. If you're here for Erika, go stream Trashy Trashy as well, and welcome aboard today's flight.
And Rich, what is your question of the week?
So, a lot of this pilot revolves around human curiosity of vampire lives and culture and just experiencing them in many different forms. I won't give that any spoilers for that. If your curiosity got the best of you and you were living in the True Blood universe, how far would you let a vampire just go crazy? Like, what would you experience? What would be your cap on just letting a vampire do what they want?
I'll take
Erika,
this.
as our guest, I'll let you go first.
I am a serial monogamous, and I hate that about myself. So I would love to be like, oh, I'd be so adventurous and frisky and being in all the vampire whole houses. But to be honest, I would probably be like, no, he's like my best friend, and then eventually date a vampire for a very long time. And within that, we can explore and have fun and all these things. But I would be like, no, we're just like best friends. Meanwhile, it's like, we only hang out. You're my emotional support. Complete, like, I
when
might
you
have
finally
a
take that
human
rosary
boyfriend.
off.
Yeah, when I take the rosary off, I'm like, this is for you. Yeah. That's how I would play. I would love to be in the committed relationship, human vampire, because I just like to stick it to the man,
Oh, I see what you did there.
I've got a really big problem in this vampire hypothetical, which is I'm in bed by 11 most nights. I am like such an early to bed kind of guy that I don't think I could keep up with the vampire lifestyle. It would be like a real touch and go kind of friendship. Like, I would meet up with them. Like, they could get a True Blood. I'll grab a beer or a glass of wine. We could, talk about the past couple hundred years or whatever. But it would really be like, we're going to meet up early and then I got to get out of here. But, like, text me.
Great. Yeah.
I feel like in my 20s, I was meant to be with a vampire, right? Like maybe 2 hours of sleep a night. I am.
You got married in your 20s, right, buddy?
I'm talking about early 20s. Let's talk about like 20, 21, maybe 22. But like the thing that I come to question is, if we're dealing with some of these vampires, sort of like we're dealing with Bill Compton, who we'll talk about later, they've been alive for hundreds of years, and they have all these stories. So I feel like it might be a very one-sided conversation and relationship of, oh, everything I have experienced already, and I'm just here being the dope who's like, this is so new and so exciting. And they're like, oh yeah, I've been through 2 World War. World War III is nothing. Rich, what about you?
I'm pretty haphazard with how I live my life sometimes, so I'd probably go further than I would admit on on a broadcast that maybe my family listens to. I'd probably let one bite me.
There we go. I mean,
and, you only live once, and then sometimes you only live once for 7,000 years.
Rich, I was really surprised your question of the week wasn't how much would you let a vampire pay you to bite you? Because I think $1,000 is a really like solid
that doesn't get
number,
you anything
but,
anymore.
Like, do I need like a few more? I think like rent should be paid by a vampire biting you. But
yeah,
who knows?
If anyone here is on seeking arrangement with some sort of vampire fetish, I would suggest raising those rates a little bit. These are old numbers.
I'm talking 400,000 minimum for a bite.
Okay.
If we're not in a committed relationship.
All right.
Okay. That's a down payment on like a starter home in Los Angeles. So that's in this economy, like that's where I'm going with that. Yeah.
Well, don't give it away.
Rich, thank you so much for that question of the week. For those who maybe want to watch True Blood before they listen to this podcast, we'll be right here. Press pause and go on to HBO Max. Or if you want to watch the censored version, which we will not be talking about today, go and watch it on TNT. But before we dive into True Blood a little bit more, a quick synopsis. Telepathic waitress Sookie Stackhouse encounters a strange new supernatural world when she meets the mysterious Bill Compton, a Southern Louisiana gentleman, and a vampire. Very short, very sweet. Max, how was this show made?
So today we're talking about True Blood's pilot titled Strange Love, which aired on HBO September 7th, 2008. Super fast sidebar. 2008, maybe the biggest year for vampires in American pop culture history. You get both the premiere of True Blood and you get the first Twilight movie. Ever hear of it?
Yeah,
so like,
the movie that invented baseball.
So like fall 08, just peak vampire in American culture. I would love to learn more as to what was going on in like the last years of the Bush administration that led to this fascination. But that's in my other podcast. So we are going to be talking about writer and creator Alan Ball today. Ball, like many people we've discussed in the show, actually got his start as a playwright, but not in New York, not in DC, not in Chicago. Our story begins in the theater mecca of Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah!
Oh, yes, let's go.
What theater is there?
So
I've been there so many times.
After graduating with a theater degree from Florida State, Ball moves to Sarasota, where he launches the General Nonsense Theater Company with classmate Nancy Oliver. They stage plays and record them for public access TV in Florida. Nancy Oliver, actually an incredibly acclaimed writer in her own right, an Academy Award nominee for Lars and the Real Girl. In 1986, Ball leaves Sarasota and moves to New York City. Kind of the opposite of what most people do. Typically, you move from New York City and then go to Sarasota, Florida. Ball starts in Florida.
But she's not 73.
So once in New York, Alan Ball, he founds the Alarm Dog Repertory Theater Company while working as a graphic designer to pay the bills. And one of his plays that he puts on, called 5 Women Wearing the Same Dress, ends up getting produced by the Manhattan Class Company. and stars a young Thomas Gibson, who you may know from Dharma and Greg and Criminal Minds, alongside Allison Janney. This play starts to get some buzz going in the New York theater scene. It actually gets optioned for a film version by Columbia Pictures. It never gets made, but Ball's work gets a little bit of eyes on him, and in 1993, he is hired as a staff writer on the new ABC sitcom Grace Under Fire, created by young Chuck Lorre. So Ball writes there for a little bit, goes on to write with Lorre on his next show, Sybil, starring Sybil Shepherd, where he's also an executive producer. And while Ball's working on Sybil, he's starting to miss his theater days. He's starting to get a little sick of like network sitcom life. He wants to get some of that drama back into it. So he's encouraged by his agent to write a spec script as a sample just to prove that he can make it as a dramatic film writer. This script that Ball writes is actually American Beauty, which goes on to net Ball an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay, as well as winning Best Picture that year.
Damn.
At the same time, though, as American Beauty, Ball has his first solo created sitcom airing on ABC, which is flopping. A show called Oh, Grow Up, which only lasts 11 episodes. Oh, wow. So he's in this kind of weird flux where he's getting absolutely panned on network TV, but he also just won an Academy Award. HBO is starting to really become this like hot new cable broadcasting TV channel at this point. Shows like Oz and The Sopranos are rising to critical acclaim. And HBO reaches out to Ball with a simple idea. We want to create a show that's centered around a family-run funeral home. So Ball takes that, runs with it, and writes the first draft of the pilot that'll become 6 Feet Under.
Lee Pace. He gave us Lee Pace.
He did.
I'm
He
in
did
love
give
with
us Lee
this
Pace.
man.
We will always have him to thank for Michael C. Hall and Lee Pace. And Richard Jenkins. Ball gets one simple note from the HBO executives. It feels kind of safe. Can you make it more fucked up?
Wow.
Which is a note that Ball's clearly run with for the rest of his career. 6 Feet Under just becomes this Emmy-dominating show. It's got an incredible cultural cachet. It's considered one of the most successful and acclaimed shows of this century. And afterwards, Ball has an overall deal with HBO to basically do whatever he wants after 6 Feet Under ends in 2005. And while he's looking for inspiration, he ends up becoming super interested in this book series by author Charlaine Harris titled The Southern Vampire Mysteries, which are a series of books about a telepathic waitress in the town of Balltown, Louisiana named Sookie Stackhouse. Ball is able to convince Harris to allow him to get the rights to this book series, develop the show, and that takes us to today's True Blood pilot.
And I was reading, too, that when he discovered those books, it was because he was 30 minutes early to a dentist appointment and wandered around Barnes & Noble for a half hour waiting for his dentist appointment. And
Who
if they
among
didn't
us?
have that, the show wouldn't have existed.
That is
So yeah, take that, Amazon. Bookstores matter.
Well, are you guys ready to take a bite into True
Wow.
Blood? Oh,
Wow.
just amazing.
I do say I am.
So we kick things off. I want to give the RIP to Ballers because this is the horniest opening of a show that we have ever done in our time. And
You tried
Erika,
so hard, The Rock.
I am so glad that you're here. Being our trashy correspondent, what is trashier than starting to give someone a hand job in your automobile while driving because they're, I believe, falling asleep? So, did we have your interest piqued just from the start?
Instant. I was like, great. I also love the feminine drive that it had. She's like, I'm not gonna blow you while you're driving. I'm gonna give you a hand job while I'm driving. Like,
Yeah.
love the
Make it
ownership
more
and
dangerous.
power she had. Yeah, exactly. Like the danger is in the palm of my hand. I'm the power in this couple. I truly, nothing is trashier than sexual acts while driving. Truly, it's a danger to everyone involved, and nothing
True.
puts you to sleep like a cum. like, what is she thinking? He's gonna go to sleep and you're gonna be left driving the rest of the way with him asleep. Like, everyone knows when you're driving, the person in the passenger seat has to be up to keep you awake on a road trip.
That's
Passenger,
right.
the people in the back seat can sleep, then you rotate. Like, that's how you drive to Destin, Florida from Stillwater, Oklahoma in one evening. Like, you rotate.
Yeah, he's really doing a terrible job at the rules of shotgun, like, to begin with.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's one of the most rude things you can do of just being the sleeping passenger in shotgun. But as we are, proceeding with the hand job, we immediately stop because we see a sign that says, "We have True Blood." And
a proud moment for edging in this episode.
Truly.
I really loved this opening scene a lot. I thought that it did such a good job of setting the scene of we are in the middle of nowhere, Louisiana, where we're starting to get an idea of the rules of the game of like, hey, vampires do exist. We have this like almost diplomat on the TV of what gas station has HBO on the TV. I have a lot of questions of who's paying for that cable package.
This is some major plugging going on. This is like maybe one of our first like our first inter-network plug.
Oh man, I didn't know we get the plugging that quickly.
Yeah. The Ouroboros of the plug was like also nothing trashier than a white Escalade.
Oh wow.
Oh, 2008, a white Escalade that the couple's driving. I was like, peak trash.
That sounds like a T.I. song.
But like during this scene, we start to get some ideas, right? True Blood vampires have only recently come out, and I'm very specifically using that "come out" phrase. We're going to talk about some of the allegories of the show as well. But the idea of there is this substance that's available. It's a novelty as well. But there's some other small tidbits that we learn. Vampire blood, known as V, seems to be a drug of some sort that people can get. That
it's like bee pollen.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
People just feel healthier after they consume it.
And
Yeah, you
no
go
one
to
knows
Moon
why.
Juice, you buy some vampire blood.
And then we have this really, like, I love the idea of the misdirect, right? We see this man who, like, we all have, and this was right around Twilight, right? Of the concept of a vampire. They're very put together and demure almost. And
Great
then
fashion
we have
sense.
this guy who's just in the back, a good old boy, and then the fangs pop out, and that's our introduction to you don't know who a vampire is in this. Before
Very,
we get
very smart
to
choice.
one of my favorite intros ever, any other thoughts about our cold open?
Yeah, the boy with the stars and bars on his hat who ends up being the vampire is credited on IMDb as good old boy vampire, which is one of my favorite actor credits.
I would put that would be my headshot. That would be on my headshot.
But yeah, just really quick from the scene, I love the cashier's line of, "You didn't know that New Orleans is a mecca for the vampires," like setting the allure of the world we're in. And just the science of it. The American Vampire League representative talking about how the Japanese have invented synthetic blood that quells needs of vampires. Like, I like that we use a cold open with characters that we never see again for the rest of this show, just to get like our exposition and world out there. We don't like make our lead characters do too much of that lifting. It's just, here's like 3 minutes to set up the world we live in, and then we're gonna plow ahead from there.
Bill Maher doesn't come back.
Oh no.
Is
he not a vampire himself,
Bill.
feeding off the blood of? No,
He just looks like Dracula.
I would like to see the clerk, like the gas station clerk who puts on the vampire tail, like that accent. I would like to see just like maybe in 3 or 4 seasons him come back as like like his death has happened, and you're like, did he imitate a vampire again?
Ooh.
And the good old boys found him. Like, that would be a fun wink.
A
to
nice
the
teaser.
pilot. Yeah, I think that would be a fun. But I liked the opening a lot. I thought it did a good job.
So then I just want to really quickly talk about this intro because I think it opens really in this sense of, Max, as you said, like it's a fucked up opening, right? Like we get these small shots. We have the I don't know the exact name of the song, but I thought it's just perfect. It gives us this sense of we are in this unknown deep south sort of contingency with the idea of like very, very specific imagery being shared of the concept of death, and then God hates fangs being shown to us outside of a church. Like, if you did not get this sense that vampires in the show are supposed to represent the LGBTQ plus community, then boy, I'm here to tell you that is the case. I want you to rethink a lot of this show because we're going to be talking about it as well. But anything else that you guys got from that intro other than just a banger of a song with it?
Yeah, what a great
Bad
fucking
Things
song.
by Jace Everett is the song, which is a great title for what it's setting. I did just like the clips and the way that kind of like had the erosion and showed like the length of time this has been, and just like the setting of like old photographs to tell historical stories, and just kind of the discrimination that's happened throughout like that kind of allegory of images we see from like our civil rights and things like that. Like it's a really good opening.
We're in an unreal era of TV theme songs around this time. I mean, this, Breaking Bad, Mad Men, all just like you had to come out strong with a good theme song at this point. Like I don't think it's really necessary anymore because everyone just does skip intro. Yeah. But this is such a banger.
No, HBO Max. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, in 2 years we get the Game of Thrones opening.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm currently watching White Lotus, and like HBO gives me that option of skipping the intro, and I'm like, nope.
No one ever skips the intro.
Never.
I'm going for the.
It's a banger.
And I'm banging. I'm like going to it. So like when this came on, I was like, I am in. Let's go. But we go to our first like actual scene. We're at Merlotte's, which seems to be the watering hole for Bon Tom as a whole, and we get to meet the protagonist of our show, Sookie Stackhouse, played by Anna Paquin, and Sookie's,
Academy Award winner, baby.
Yeah, and Sookie's not your normal girl. As we come to find out.
I'm not like other girls. I can read everyone's thoughts intrusively.
I can hear everyone's thoughts, and they throw out the R word around Sookie like it is goddamn candy. As far as like a leading character for our show, did you guys get any, like, was there anything that you thought from this first scene of like, ooh, this is going to be fun and interesting? Or like, is this a little bit like, wait, way too much happening for me right now?
See, I thought it was a misdirect in general because she could read the thoughts. The customer says, the bartender, the owner, Sam, I believe, comments about like, why do you have Lafayette says like, why do you have a spray tan and that lipstick on? She's like, well, a spray tan. I'm like, because she's super pale. She's like, I get little tips when I wear makeup. I can hear everyone's thoughts. I thought for the first 2 to 3 minutes she was a vampire herself, or some type of possible, mix in some way of vampire human. I don't know what the genealogy looks like. I'm still learning the world, but I thought she had something that was vampiric herself, being able to hear these thoughts.
Yeah,
so
of this time frame again, super pale, blonde hair, able to read thoughts. That also does play into other popular vampire mythology that was coming out of this time as well.
Yeah.
And as we are like sort of just a very quick intro to Sookie, we also have a very quick intro to another character of Tara. I loved this scene at I think the store was called Super Save Bunch. And
Super Save a Bunch, baby.
Super Save a Bunch, one great name for any store. I don't think that's trademarked or copywritten, so please go and put that license down. But like, Tara's rage quit is the rage quit I think we've all wanted to do at some point in our lives, and the actress who plays her just nails it from the start of it all. Like,
nails the rage quit, but I do have some questions on the accent work.
So Tara immediately comes off as bananas in this in this show, because like she lost it for almost nothing. Anyone who has worked in retail can handle a conversation like that. She was ready to go already. This is like a hair trigger.
So it wasn't this one. It was all the ones leading up to this
Big
one.
time.
This was just the straw that broke the camel's back. That lady's pantsuit, the size of the buttons, that's what broke Tara in that moment.
And
Like,
the manager that keeps smacking her ass, apparently.
yeah.
Lots happening off camera.
Yeah.
But when we get back to, we go right back to Merlot's. There's a lot of, the way that I broke down, like, so I take notes for these shows, but like the way that I broke down this show, it's like, hey, gas station, Merlot's Bar and Grill. We're back at Merlot's. We're back at Merlot's again. Smut scene. We're going to talk about that. But like, as we get back to Merlot's, we start to meet like a few of the other people, this wild, like, Southern stereotypes that we're going to have of like Sam, Arlene, Dawn, Lafayette, who, you know, like, I love the character and the concept of Lafayette. Like, is it a little bit of a stereotype? Yes. It's a little bit of a weird stereotype that, like, but the actor who plays Lafayette just eats everything up and kills it as a whole.
I
Yeah,
will
Nelson
say-
Ellis is phenomenal here, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah. I saw such a career for him breaking away from that stereotypical role, but also thriving in things that came out later, like in the Ryan Murphy universe, or like
Yeah.
something in like in Pose or something like that. Like, I really could see him thriving in roles like that. But yeah, R.I.P.
I will say we're also looking at that character with 2023 eyes. It is 15 years
2008.
ago. Just so you know how far, just to provide context of how far we come since 2008, is Barack Obama ran on an anti-gay marriage platform for his first term running for president. It was extremely unaccepted. And this character, you know, even though it is several years after Will and Grace, it's several years after the Ellen DeGeneres show and stuff like that, it is still a kind of radical act to have a black gay character like this. And yeah, it is like, you know, obviously right now that character would be like, okay, whoa, tone it down a little bit. Like, you know, we get they're gay, we get it. But this is kind of like more of a radical, like, oh, we're going to have like a badass, like, black gay character in this show.
Yeah.
And if there's one thing that I've been told about this show, and I haven't watched anything beyond the pilot, is that you are going to fall in love with Lafayette. Like, he is
100%.
like
He becomes
incredible.
Yeah.
He becomes
Yeah.
a fan favorite very, very quickly.
Yeah, easily one of my favorites from this. Also, this is our second HBO
Max,
self-promotion.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah, and like 5 minutes in, one of the servers on the phone talking about how she doesn't want her child watching an HBO movie. And it's like, man, HBO is like plugging that. It's like, we have racy movies on our platform. We have Bill Maher. Like, HBO just keeps plugging itself. And I'm trying to imagine any show in 2023 just like consistently being like, well, I mean, actually, no, Disney does that. Like Abbott Elementary, every other joke is about Avengers or Disney movies or things like that. But like, you're watching Barry and it's like just like watching Sex and the City reruns or something, or talking about HBO Max.
Yeah, and there was one other line in this scene that I loved, and it was from Lafayette when he said, "I know every man, straight, gay, or George motherfucking Bush is terrified of the pussy." And I just was just like, we're setting the tone early. This is the character that you are going to, that has no regards for sensitivities, anything like that. Absolutely just going to bring their truth and honesty whenever they are there.
I do miss our attitude of the second Bush Bush term, where we're just like, fuck
Angry?
this. We know it's all
Angry.
bullshit.
It was
no
this
hope,
guy or John
no hope,
Kerry,
just
and
anger.
we chose.
And I like that a lot.
I also loved how he even spoke to like the gentleman in the overalls, like the no-shirt overalls, like very stereotypical
Oh my
Southern
God.
man. He was, but it wasn't like in, like the guy didn't react in like hostility or homophobia. He was just like, yeah, I deserve this. You know, just kind of was like, yeah, Lafayette's right. You're right. Okay. Like, you know, it was just.
He also knows he would get his
speaks
ass beat by both those characters.
Yeah, I-
100%.
When Lafayette tells that man, "You could be my Santa Claus," and he just kind of like nods along.
And smiles.
All right, I'm
will
going back
say,
to the kitchen. I'm in the phone book.
Erica, I don't know if you're too familiar, but we've just started recently having a Daddy of the Week. And Overalls Man is an early favorite for Daddy of the Week.
What?
100%.
Over Lafayette? Lafayette is the Daddy of the Week, by far.
Lafayette, there are a lot of contenders in this episode. We
Maybe
will debate
Jason.
it a little
Maybe
bit later.
Can I have 2 daddies now that gay marriage is legal?
Careful, it's 2008.
But
You're
A
right.
family could be 10 dads.
A family can be 10.
Oh my god, did we have our first Birthday Boys reference?
well, talking about being terrified of the pussy, the next scene that we have is Jason Stackhouse eating out a topless woman. Let's just say very generously, which, like, good for you, HBO, for showing that, you know, women deserve a little bit of foreplay, if not a lot of foreplay.
There's an awful lot of cunnilingus in this pilot.
And we sort of get the first idea of, like, human vampire sexual relations as a whole, of the idea that it sort of seems to be this taboo topic of having sex with vampires, because Jason finds bite marks on the leg of this woman that he is, presumably having sex with in regards to other things. And from this point, we start to learn of, like, hey, she was paid. We already talked about it, but $1,000 to have sex with this vampire, get bitten, and there's a video, which immediately I was like, wait, I thought vampires can't be in photographs or videos, and this show proved me very wrong.
The great thing is, like, the vampire lore can evolve with every telling. That's the beautiful thing about all of it. It's really in the eye of the beholder. Again, I like that HBO. I think that if this were made in 2023, we would see a lot more physically of these two characters. Mm-hmm. But I do love that it was like, again, they kind of took that feminist flip of like, oh, he's eating her out. Like, this is the scene. She's not, like, doing something to him. Like, obviously it was to help discover the bite mark on the thigh, but it was just cool to see, like, oh, no, this is her. Like, yeah.
There's a lot of feminine power demonstrations in this.
Yes.
And we did talk about that. Okay, how are they filming a vampire sex tape when vampires can't show up on film? And that is because there is a mirror inside most video cameras. So they explain that away in the pilot of What We Do in the Shadows, saying that it's a mirror-free camera. It's just like a regular camera without mirrored video. And I have to imagine they just wanted us to figure that out ourselves, I guess. Who knows? For anyone who just threw away the pilot at this particular moment.
I just love, too, the size of the video camera. Nowadays, it would be just, like, a pin-sized microscopic camera hidden in, like, a phone charger.
It is out
or
and
like,
about.
Oh, it is just, like, amongst the teddy bears, just, like, a human head. Like, that's that kind of, like, just set, like, all hide in the teddy bears. Like, it's big and visible. And I'm like, I definitely think you would see that. Like,
2008, baby. We're still on the iPhone 1.
If you're blinded, that's not what you're looking for. But it just feels very visible.
But from here, so we have this idea of, we leave that scene with, oh, there's a tape. We're back to Merlotte's, and we get to meet our first vampire that's living in Bonton.
I fucking love this intro. I'm sorry. This is hilarious to me. The shift to the dramatic piano music, the way the lights dim around the mysterious stranger, all of the choices that Alan Ball makes here they're so over the top. They are so funny to me. They are so dramatic. I love it. It's almost campy in a way, like how over the top dramatic it is, and it just highlights the vampire-ness of this man.
So, like, my question for the three of you, because I have watched almost every single episode of this show. Spoiler alert. We'll talk about how weird it gets later. But what did you think of the chemistry between Sookie Stackhouse and this mysterious vampire on face value of their first meeting?
I feel like it's a little bit of that, like Southern energy, like she carries, that just like demure kind of awkward, appropriate behavior she's trying to muster, but him being somewhat aloof to an extent, and her being like, I have to win his approval. I have to show I'm worth this conversation. You know, it was kind of that, she wasn't eager in like her, she wasn't fast, she wasn't this, but it was a little more sped up than her being sultry. You know, sultry's more slow, the way Bill talks, and more with pauses, and she was kind of like, you know, kind of high energy volume, showing kind of more like cute girl than like sultry, sexy woman. In my, you know, so it's kind of like that dynamic was already established of,
yeah,
you're
they
gonna
seem
be earning this.
I think the intent for at least this episode is to make Sookie look kind of like virgin-esque, to be like the virgin vampire bride kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then, because she says constantly how...
Yeah, that she doesn't have
like,
sex with
Sex
anyone. She
life
doesn't
to
kiss
speak
people.
of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no men in her life, no sex life to speak of, and I don't know, maybe that's the allure for the vampires. That could be like, if like we're going back to like original historical context for original vampire lore and stuff like that. I think that might be part of it. But yeah, she basically approaches it like, hey, here's someone who I can talk to who doesn't think I'm an idiot for no reason, or doesn't treat me like an idiot.
Yeah. I do like that his name is just Bill. Bill the vampire. That's so Louisiana in a way. Like,
it's very Bob the drag queen.
Very popular. We have a family friend who's always said their name is A-Bear. So in my head,
nice.
I've always pronounced it A-B-E-A, you know,
Yeah.
B-E-A-R or A-B-A-R-E. You know, no, it's spelled H-O-B-E-R-T. They're from Louisiana. It's Hobart.
Oh my god.
But pronounced in their Creole, you know, kind of
A
Cajun.
bear.
A-Bear. Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god.
like my favorite, like, Bill. Bill the vampire.
Just all Tennessee
Guillaume.
Williams characters, every single one of them.
But one of the things that we found out about in this scene was there is this vampire rights amendment that is just thrown out. And this gave me such vibes of the Get Out. Like, I would have voted for Obama a third time if I
Right.
could have. Like, oh yeah, like this is... I have no idea what to talk to you about. I'm just so excited to meet you. Vampire rights amendment, right? Like, can I get a high five and an amen, please?
Yes.
It's the birth of white guilty liberalism.
Yeah. I'm one of the good ones.
Well, think about at this time, you know, Dick Cheney literally was a vampire as vice president, so of course you have to promote this legislature.
Yeah.
It's representation. Representation
Yeah.
matters.
It does.
So as soon as this happens, we go back to my scene that I just have labeled as back to smut. And the only thing that I have written down is fear boner, fear boner, fear boner, fear boner, fear boner. As Jason is vigorously, is the only way I can explain it,
Yes.
having sex with this woman while watching vampire sex tapes, trying to simulate all of that stuff. And all while, like, really, you can tell that there's almost this, like, vampire hate deep within him, the way that he's talking to her, as if she is now sullied because she's had sex with a vampire.
Yes.
Yeah, that is, and, you know, Jeff, I think right now would probably be a pretty decent time to start getting into the allegory of this with the queer community, because I have to, okay, so obviously you're going to go more into this from your own research, but this is definitely like you slept with a bisexual man kind of like situation. It's like, we're getting progressively past the AIDS epidemic at this point, where we're starting to see more representation of queer people in the media. And I'm just curious, like, what you think from your own like personal understanding of the allegory of the queer community and this show, what that you see right here.
It's one of the really, I think that what this episode does is very much establish, like I talked about it a little bit earlier, it establishes the rules of the game. Who is the party that is being victimized in this case? And in the beginning, and one of the things that I think this next scene really, really does well is vampires are not safe in this world. We've been raised to believe that vampires are these scary individuals with all these abilities and they can mind control us and all these things. In the literal next scene, and I do not think this was a thing that was taken lightly, we see Bill being sucked dry of his blood with very small little silver chains that Sookie almost very easily just takes off of him without any effort soever, just to see the and this might be me thinking way too deep into this show, but the effortlessness with which she does that, just showing the oppression that and the victimization that vampires, and in this case, and during 2007, 2008, when we're talking about this, the victimization of the LGBTQ plus community that we're talking about. The idea that we have Lafayette out and about, unabashedly, being a queer or gay. In this instance, we are not told what he or they are at this point, but a vampire is being shamed is just so striking and done, and it's just so well done as a whole of being different at this time in this universe is being a vampire.
What I also think is a strong writing choice by Alan Ball is we don't know who Jason Stackhouse is at this point in the episode. Obviously, looking back on it and discussing the show, we are aware of who this character is.
Yeah.
But in the context of watching it for the first time, this is my first time watching this episode, I don't know who this character is. And so it's interesting to do these cut scenes to this sexual situation where we're playing on how he talks to Maudette, the discrimination there, the way that he views her as a sexual object based on her history and what she's done before and what Rich touched upon. And because we aren't aware of who this character is, it's almost just used as a framing device for this larger allegory. And so when you learn who Jason is, it does then kind of tie it back to the people who are our family, our friends, they might have these biases and these prejudices that we don't even know about. And you see someone like Sookie who is like, well, I supported the Vampire Rights Amendment. I care about vampires. They're a part of our community. And someone like Jason, his perception of vampires is so different from his sisters, but they don't know that of each other. I think it's really smart of Ball to tie it into how you could have these different vantage points under the same roof.
And it's interesting that Sookie kind of has that moment of professing to be an ally. Listen how I am an ally. Telling someone you're an ally, not exactly how you do it. But then she shows him. She's like, I have this privilege. I'm going to exercise it and actually physically stop these people from doing the thing that they're doing. And
literally giving a lesson to folks of if you see wrongdoing happening, insert yourself no matter what others are telling you. Everyone is telling her not to get involved, to let Bill, suffice for himself. He's a vampire. Guess what? He needed help. And in this instance, we start to see some very interesting things, right? These telepathic powers we see start to evolve into full-on psychic powers.
It is also maybe the worst slow-mo jog into frame I've ever seen on camera. When Sookie runs out of the bar to rescue him, it's like she thinks that the camera rate is going to be slowed down, but they're filming it in real time. She's just moving slow.
Okay, so for everyone playing at home, let's try to go over the rules that they've created so far for this show, because there's a lot. Number one, vampires exist. Number two, vampires are integrating themselves into society and are trying to get representation for themselves, trying to live safely. A company is now making synthetic blood, which I have to imagine around this time is when a lot of pharmaceutical companies tried doing pretty extreme tests on AIDS medications and stuff like that. True blood is available, which I have to assume is just a drink that vampires can have. The vampires can be tied down with silver, which has to be some sort of ancient like really archaic, like vampire lore kind of thing. Is there anything I'm missing so far? Oh, vampire blood is very healthy and is valuable. Is there anything else that I'm missing?
Vampire blood to regular humans is also viewed as like a drug in this
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
In the scene with Bill, they refer to Mac as drinking V juice and that making him an addict.
Okay.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
can see like how obsessed he is. Like, I think that was, we didn't really talk about the rat rays that much, but they almost seem like this stereotype of just trash that is there. They are drug dealers and sourcing the drugs from this livestock, and Sookie comes to the rescue of them seeing Bill as a gold mine. And him being saved by this woman who wants to be an ally. Couple of things that happen after that. One that I just have is, there is a dog that just appears.
Yeah, we do get the line, well, hey there, dog, to let
We
you know
get
that a
the
dog is
line,
down
well,
there.
hey there, dog. And as someone who's watched a lot of this show, what do we think that dog is? Do we think that dog was randomly on set? Or, I know what that dog is, but I'd love to hear from y'all what you think that dog represents.
Does that dog turn into a person at some point?
Is that dog a werewolf? Because, again, the Twilight's tying, but silver was famously something that could pierce werewolf hearts.
Yes.
But she's put the silver kind of away. I don't know. I was very curious about like that, like guardianship and like affection that it showed her as kind of like some type of
That's such a good catch.
benevolent guardian of her in some way. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you guys this. Rich, you nailed it on the head.
Yeah, it's a person.
That is a person. I'm not going to spoil which person it is that we have already met on this show. But I will tell you there are also werewolves in this show. One being famously played by Joe Manganiello. Manganiello, excuse me. And then there are also fairies in this show. And that is when this show goes off the fucking rails.
This scene also does, we have to address, again, back to Twilight, we get a reverse Twilight here, which is that Sookie cannot read Bill's thoughts. Now, in Twilight, for those who are familiar with the novels or films, Edward Cullen has the clairvoyant telepathic powers, and he cannot read Bella Swan's thoughts. So we're getting a reverse role here. Also, again, just, you know, the feminist icons here. She gets the clairvoyant abilities this time around, while Bill just gets a southern drawl and talks about juicy arteries in people's groins.
Oh, yeah, that was a very sexual. I wrote that down.
Big time.
You know, when someone saves you and then you sexually harass them and threaten them at the same time?
That's Hollywood, baby. That's pre-me. That's pre-Me Too Hollywood.
Yeah. It's very The Princess Bride in some way.
Yes.
I have two guesses as to who the dog is.
Okay, go for it.
And we can talk offline.
Yeah.
I think it's either Arlene or Sam.
Okay.
So that's all I'll say.
I
Those are
am
both
going to
solid
take
guesses.
a guess that it is Lafayette.
Me too. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
These are all really solid guesses, and guess what?
They're
Because
all
when we
wrong.
talk about the pilot, we're not going to answer it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, ooh.
Max, to your point, we do find out that Jason Stackhouse is indeed Sookie's brother in this case, and he's flirting with Dawn, who is played by Lily Collins, who, if you know who Lily Collins, congratulations. But I know her from one of the largest flops. Or is it Lily Collins? It is Lynn Collins, excuse me. Lynn Collins is from one of Disney's greatest flops of all time, and that was John Carter. She played the alien princess in that. Fun fact for those at home.
I was going to say, I believe that Lily Collins is currently in Paris.
Yeah, she is Emily in Paris. But from here, we then go to Sookie's house / Graham's house in this case.
Lois Smith time, baby.
I
Lois
love
Smith.
the Graham character. The Graham character is perfect and just very unassuming almost. And then we get this really interesting, like, I want to call it a nightmare, but it's not. It's like this fever dream-esque where Bill is doing his best, and my wife literally said this as we were watching this scene together. All right, Edward Cullen. Like this just creepy
Most people
staring
call it a
out your
sex
window.
dream. Jeff calls it a nightmare.
Yeah.
We don't have time to get into that. Jeff famously doesn't want to do bad things to you.
I'll give you my therapist Freud's number when we get off the line.
Oh, I'm
He
really,
has a
really
lot.
excited.
Yeah.
But after this nightmare, we get this wild transition. Not from Tsuki awake, but Anna Paquin just in a bikini, getting a suntan with her iPod Classic stereo, which prime 2008 stuff.
Big time.
And Jason shows up with the greatest fit of all time, just a sleeveless shirt, high school cap, and a pair of jeans. And I have no notes.
I was actually
No
thinking about
notes.
going shirtless for this recording just because of how much fucking man chest is in this episode. It's the right amount. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's the right amount of man chest.
And like we learn a couple of things in this scene. We learn that Maudette Pickens, who is the woman that Jason had sex with, was found dead. She was found hung.
There's been a murder.
There's been a murder.
There has. And we also learn the term and learn a little bit more about Jason's, hate
Bigotry.
of vampires.
Yeah.
Bigotry, yeah. With calling them fangbangers, or people who have sex with vampires, fangbangers. To which, when Graham says very earnestly, "What is a fangbanger?" I was just like, yes.
Lois Smith following that up with the delivery of "My stars" is maybe my favorite
Oh,
line in this
man.
entire pilot.
It's like I don't know. It is just a Southern American, like, you kind of have to do it. You can't have a character who's going to be a Southern debutante without giving at least one my stars.
Yeah.
This
5
like,
stars
last-
for her, my stars.
This like
delivery.
final third of the show running joke though of like Graham's being more and more interested in vampires and asking Suki more and more questions is so funny to me. I love this character. I don't know how much Lois Smith is going to be in this show. I want it to be more than whatever it is.
Yeah, I have very bad news for you, Max.
Oh, no.
We can talk about it after the show.
We killed her. We got rid of her as Aunt. Wait, does she die in Twister as Aunt Meg? I don't know. She has made that amazing breakfast in the cast iron skillet with the steak
Yep.
and the eggs. We'll talk about that off camera too.
Something we've already I was scrolling to see episode counts on IMDb, but someone from the Mean Girls cast, spoiler to continue watching the series, is also in 6 episodes of True Blood.
Ooh.
Is it Tim Meadows?
It should be Tim Meadows.
Great question. Not to my
Tim Meadows
knowledge.
as a vampire
Oh,
would
hell
be...
no. I didn't abandon the pilot of True Blood for this.
Yeah.
So from here, we just really quickly, Jason gets arrested. We find out that he thinks he's guilty based off of Suki's very convenient telepathic powers, to which you can tell. That's one of the interesting rules of this pilot that I'm intrigued by is like in the beginning, it almost seems like Suki has told no one she's telepathic. It's something that she deals with on a daily basis. By the end of this pilot, you can tell that everyone knows that Suki is telepathic, and we just go about our days and like just think whatever the fuck we want to think.
Yeah, they sure do.
Knowing that she's listening in on what they're talking about.
I also have a very just quick what the fuck here. Can we discuss Chris Bauer's Cajun accent as Andy Bellafleur when they arrest Jason? It is. He
It's real
says
bad.
like 15 words, and I understand 4 of them.
Which is accurate. Like, that's what it should be. If you truly hear somebody from that region, You should be like, yeah, we're gonna have to bring you down, arrest. We've got evidence of
Like this man is a
murder.
detective he's a detective on the scene, and I can't get a lick of what he's doing here, Chris Bauer.
Yeah.
Well,
You get an interpreter if you get arrested in Louisiana. It's a legal requirement. English.
I watched this episode with subtitles, and it just said indistinguishable.
I did like
This is a
the idea
scripted TV show.
It's incredible.
of establishing like Jason's promiscuity, but also that Maudette Pickens was sort of like the town. Let's just say, Maudette
She was very open
enjoyed-
and favorable to everyone.
She was very open, and she had a good time, and
She
that
didn't
is
discriminate.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
But Jason gets taken in. And we sort of get the idea of like, okay, the town knows because there's these 3 gentlemen, including Lafayette, who were there at the scene. And immediately from this scene, we're back at Merlotte's post-Jason arrest. This is when we meet our potential daddy of the week, our man in overalls, because Tara is just being a very bad bartender, just reading a book and not providing any conversation.
I have a name.
But then from here, we do get this even greater picture of what is Merlotte's like, what is the environment around vampirism as well, because Bill is back, y'all, and he orders his glass of wine that he does not drink. We get our second really sexy scene with the slowdown of the walking and all.
There's actually
My favorite line from the pilot as well.
go for it.
Please.
May I call on you sometime?
Woo!
Woo! I was like, all right, I'm into Bill.
The minor key piano, the strings, the shadows, the light work as he sits at a table for 4 as one person. The lead
They don't make a table for one, Max. They don't make one.
The lead across the table between Sookie and Bill, who are talking nose to nose. This is like one of those things that's like so sexually charged without being sexual.
Yeah.
And it's like a real powerful thing. I found out actually that Stephen Moyer and Anna Paquin are married in real life, and they met shooting this pilot.
Yeah,
So
they started dating right after the pilot.
What?
So when they are nose to nose in that scene, that you're watching 2 people fall in love in real time right there. And
Whoa.
That's how
That
you
is a
get a
beautiful
chemistry
thing.
read. Yeah,
Just to tell y'all, they got married 2 years after meeting on the pilot.
Dang.
And they have a lovely family of 4 people. And
Aw.
also, just like
And
shout
2
out to-
vampires.
Yep, unfortunately. But just a shout out also to Anna Paquin, because she got the confidence on this show to come out as bisexual while doing the show. And like, shout out to
I think a lot of people came out as
representation on the
bisexual
show.
after they saw this.
Yeah, you know? And like, spoiler alert, there's a lot of attractive people in this pilot. There are so many more attractive people who are set to join the show, even just in episode 2.
Yeah, I'm not a Skarsgård. A Skarsgård joins the cast.
Our Tarzan joins.
I learned that prior to this role, Alex Skarsgård's biggest role was being one of the dumb models in Zoolander.
Yeah,
I had no idea that was him. No idea. Oh.
Yeah.
But from here, we have like that amazing interaction between them of, hey, can you do me a favor? I'll see you when the bar closes. And Sam wanting to save the day, but like also being a creep. And Sam was in the running for my daddy of the week before that moment happened.
True.
Because daddies have to be good people. And
we have very few rules on this podcast, but they're very rigid.
Yeah.
The love triangle it's setting up, though, I'm very excited about potential future.
But like that's the thing that is wild to me. Like Sam fully knowing and Tara being in front of him being like, I told you not to read my mind, and he's still just being like, oh, I love you so much. I love you so much. And it's just like,
Oh yeah, it
Jesus.
smells so good.
Yeah. Oh, it's so gross.
But if he was thinking like puppies and kittens and my grandma, like doing the boner suppression thoughts, like wouldn't it be just
grandma.
yeah 10 times the Pledge of Allegiance? Like, wouldn't it be 10 times creepier if that's what was running? Like, if she could pick up on
that would be such a great joke.
This show was missing
show.
that one instance of someone doing that around Sookie, because that would have been such a dumb laugh, but it's such a great laugh every single time.
If someone was just sitting at the bar because they have ADHD, it's like eggs, bread, cheese, eggs, bread, cheese.
Me constantly wave file, send audio in a wave file. It's been all
my God.
at the back of my mind the whole time.
But at the end of the shift, this show ends on a cliffhanger.
Oh boy!
And Sookie,
it's a cliff beating, really.
Ever-living crap beat out of her by the Ratrays.
Yeah, they're back. In a big way.
With no hero in sight, no signs of Bill, no signs of Sam or any of her friends.
Yeah.
And that is how we end this pilot.
It is so now, HBO to just have the horniest shot. Like, right, I mean, there's literal sex in this episode, and the horniest shot is Bill sitting down at the diner, and just immediately going like split second from horniest shot to violence is like, oh man, an HBO masterpiece.
Like, you're kicked in the abdomen, and then like blood is pouring out of your mouth, like that kind of violence. She's not just like kind of getting punched around, like you're on the ground getting stomped. That is violent.
That blood pack spit is like just textbook. It really did a lot of work there. She really nailed it.
Yeah.
All right. So, with the pilot over, what were some of the things that you loved that maybe we did not talk about when talking about this show?
Oh boy. I mean, I want so much for Lafayette in this show. Like, I love the banter of them all talking shit in the kitchen. That's like probably one of my favorite dialogue moments throughout the entire show. And I just cannot, like, when I watch more of this, I want so much for this one particular character. And I've heard that Tara gets replaced with a different actress, if I'm not mistaken.
So
that was one of the things that I
read.
read.
On IMDb, Tara's character says 80 episodes, whereas almost everyone else introduced in the pilot, the mains, have 81 characters. So I do think she may have been replaced.
Yes.
So I will just say really quickly on that, they shot a tester pilot for focus groups. What we see is pretty much identical. There's like 2 minor tweaks. One of them is the actress who plays Tara.
Okay.
So the actress that we see in the HBO broadcast pilot is our main Tara, but somebody for some reason IMDb, they break it down into original unaired pilot and this episode Strangelove as being 2 different episodes on IMDb for credit purposes.
I will just say, without spoiling anything, that there are a lot of major characters in this show, very similar to Game of Thrones, that get offed. And
contracts are complicated,
Tara
Jeff.
May or may not be one of those.
Oh no.
Yeah, but one of the things, I know we spoke to this a little bit, but I know this was based off of the book. But the world building in this pilot is immaculate.
It's really good.
Really just setting up the idea of this small town, but what's happening outside of this small town in the United States, in the world, of the idea of where vampires are, the prejudice about them, and how society views them as a whole. It is so well done, like A+. And also, this is just normally when there's this much like sex or like stuff like that in a pilot, I'm like, oh, I'm distracted by it. Like Ballers, I was distracted by the amount of boobs that were in that pilot. There were so many boobs, like just everywhere. And like, that is one of the things that just sticks out to me. But in this, it feels weirdly appropriate how much of it there is, and like A+ to Alan Ball on doing that.
Well, and I think about something that you said earlier, Erika, where you talked about Sookie's line about how she supported the vampire rights amendment, how it's like she's kind of being performative with her allyship, and like that's not really how you be a good ally by just saying, well, I supported this thing. And it's kind of a throwaway line, but it tells you everything you need to know about the character and lets you move on from it as well. True Blood doesn't get too bogged down in like spinning its wheels and over explaining things. Ball does a really good job of having these small little lines that tell you so much about a character and then let you just move on to the next thing with you knowing what you need to know.
Yeah. I was very interested when your grandmama is like, would he come speak to my history book? I was curious, though. My club at the library, like, are the daughter, like, whatever club she referenced, I didn't.
It was
write
like
the exact
Daughters
name.
of the Glorious Dead or something like that.
It's the Descendants of the Glorious Dead.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I'm like, North or South?
Yeah,
Which-
you know
Like,
that
Yes.
answer. You know
Yes,
that
that
answer.
was-
That's
that
why I
was
was
Who are
good.
like,
you trying to get answers
The great
for?
when someone references it as the Great War, you know
Yeah.
exactly what
Yeah.
side they
Yeah.
were on.
Yeah,
Gramps
Granny's
has
like,
absolutely
states' rights, states'
used
rights.
the
And we're like,
phrase
no.
"War of Northern Aggression" in her lifetime.
yeah, this is why I was
100%.
not on
Yeah.
board the Graham train.
Yeah, definitely. She was like, well, it was just it was. I was like,
Yeah,
great
it was
grandpa.
it was about economics. It was
Great grandpa was a decorated veteran of the Great War. And we're like, we're gonna tear his
no.
statue down, Granny, just so you know. Yeah, that was very told me a lot about like you can be kind, but not be thoroughly a good person in a way. Like there's that
Sure.
dichotomy so many people have in that. Yeah.
So, any other things that we loved that we did not talk about in this pilot?
Carrie Preston being that like overworked kind of sexy mom. That's just like she's so
Kills
good
this
at
role.
that
Nails
kind
it.
of
Kills this
character. Yeah, like I was like, oh yeah, her boobies are pushed a little bit up. Of course, she's got a kid at home, but she's playing pool with the boys. She's having a flirt. Like she needs that. Like she works. She's a kid. She needs that. Like I just think she's such a great actress. So I was really excited to see her in it. Yeah.
Shout out, friend of the pod.
Oh.
All right. Now, in a TV show that's filled with a lot of interesting moments, were there any wait a minute moments for any of you?
Just Graham being a potential still Confederate supporter.
Yeah.
Also, it made me wonder if Graham was indeed herself a vampire, because like if she still has that many connections to the Civil War,
Right.
If I could only tell you. If I
Oh,
could only
boy.
tell you
Yeah.
what's up with Graham.
Oh, boy.
Because I was like, oh, where does Suki get this
uh-huh.
abilities from? Like, who
Uh-huh.
are her parents? Like, why is Graham raising him? I was like, there's a lot unsaid.
Yes.
Also, the brother,
Oh.
like Jason's job of just being like shirtless reading a magazine. Is he like supervising?
Look, the economy was terrible back then.
It was terrible. It's like, I'm gonna watch you dig hole. Like, was he supervising prisoners?
They were
Or, like,
they were public. It was public works. They
Yeah,
were all
I
in.
don't think
That's
they were
what their
prisoners.
shirt said. It said like they
Got
were
it.
all in the public works department. So
okay.
my guess is just very easy. There seems to only be like 4 jobs in Bon Tom.
Yes.
You work at the police department, you work in the public works department, you work at Merlot's, or you are on the wrong side of the Civil War. Those are the 4 jobs.
Yeah, you're
Four
a-
economy
that you have.
drivers.
You're
Yeah,
a soothsayer or something.
Or you sell V. Oh, sorry. There's
Oh yeah,
5
there's the
jobs.
illegal underground current, of course.
Which is basically seems like vape store kind of economics there.
Any other wait a minute moments?
Oh man, how is Jason that bad of a liar? I've never seen anyone be that horrible at lying. Like, it doesn't matter if it's to the police. Like, I feel like, Bon Tom is like small enough that he probably knows both of those cops like personally, and he is still just the worst liar I have ever seen in my life. There are some moments in this pilot where it's like the acting is kind of not great. And maybe it's just everyone figuring out the dialogue. It's maybe figuring out the world building. It's figuring out their own characters and stuff like that. Some of it seems rushed. And Jason just being the worst liar in the world is so... It was like... It's like a very pivotal moment in the show, but it just made me laugh. Like, I don't think they nailed it with that particular one, but they really made him look dumb.
Was the lady Rathray's "I'll get you, bitch"? Was that an ADR line, or was she on camera to say that? Because I was like, I like that they were like, no, we have to we need to show.
Oh, that's so ADR.
I was like, beautiful.
We
line.
need to foreshadowing, foreshadowing on the nose.
We don't have an ending yet.
Oh my god. Well, with all this said, before we get to our in-flight question, we have to ask, and I need a solid answer from each of you, who is this pilot's daddy of the week? Erika, as our guest.
I'm gonna have to go. I like my daddies with a little padding. Lafayette's a strong runner up, but he's he's lean.
Yeah.
He's agile. He's gonna be able to do like backflips and kick you. I like the daddy in the overalls. Like, you've got a clear advantage. He's going to be warm in the winter. You know you're flying first class if you fly with him because you don't fit. Like, he has so many advantages. Like, we're going to the steakhouse twice a week. Like,
Damn, you're thinking 3 moves ahead.
Oh,
wow.
I know my daddies. So
He also seems like a solid listener, and we love a daddy that listens.
Yeah, he listened more than he talked in that scene. 2 ears, 1 mouth. I love daddy.
Which is
daddy
the straight male Bechdel test.
Max, Rich, do you have a daddy of the week?
Well, in the spirit of Tennessee Williams, I have to dub a big daddy of the week. And I'm gonna go with Vampire Bill.
Yeah.
If the music and lighting shifts around you every single time you enter a room, you're doing something right as a daddy. If you lean across the table at your co-star and then you marry them, you're doing something right.
True.
That's the definitive daddy.
That's why Brad and Angelina worked out.
Yeah. Well, and as we've learned on The Bachelor, if you whisper, they have to come in. It's an intimacy drawer. Like, the lower your voice is, they can't hear you if they're 4 feet away. You got to draw them in.
I think that is a pickup artist move, if I remember correctly.
Who knows? Who can say? Who can say?
Shout out to the incel community, not friends of the pod.
Bill's totally peacocking in that just like plain shirt, you know.
I gotta go Lafayette. I everyone wants to fuck Lafayette. It is like, no matter how much they mess with him in the kitchen or like, the back and forth and everything. I mean, there is no one that is more eye-catching and, like, exudes, like, sexual confidence than Lafayette. And, yeah, that's all I need.
I'm also just going to give credit, because I think everyone here has a fantastic answer, to our good old boy Vampire, because we love someone who sticks up for themselves, as well as their group, and make sure to let people know, if you fuck with my people, you fuck with me.
As good old boy Vampire said before the fangs came out, I'll fuck you, then I'll eat you.
Such a good line.
Yes.
Well, we do have an in-flight question this week. In-flight questions are submitted to us by friends of the pod on our DMs as well as voicemails. But this week, very simple. If vampires existed in our world, which version from the pop culture zeitgeist would you want to have around?
Oh, hell yeah.
So there are a lot of different options and opportunities, and I am going to say, in maybe a little bit of a controversial statement, not so controversial. I want the vampires from What We Do in the Shadows to exist, because then that proves to me that energy vampires do exist. They are in my life, and I can find them and know that they are there. What about you, Erika?
So it's a definite tie between the What We Do in the Shadows clan, because it's so diverse. There's so many different groups. I love that. But I'm a throwback old school, and I love an interview with a vampire world. Of just like, mopey of and like trying to get along. Like I think that world I would just be like, oh, finally I'm kind of where I belong. Like I don't want to work. I just want to talk like I'm in a Tennessee Williams play. I want to have cool clothes and money. That sounds great. Like that might be the world I kind of want to bandy about in.
Do you think the Bill Maher interview at the very beginning is a nod to Interview with a Vampire? Because it's literally interviewing a vampire in the first 2 minutes.
Wow. I've never thought
He's
about
the
that,
Christian
but I love
Slater.
Wow.
Oh, yes,
right.
because when I see Bill Maher, I think Christian Slater. They are the same human being.
I mean, they're white men. Like, oh.
Yeah,
Sure.
you know, they're both privileged white men. Max, what about you?
So I'm going in a little bit of a different direction. I didn't really grow up with like a grandfather figure necessarily in my home. So I got to give it to the Count from Sesame Street.
Nice.
That is the
God,
real
yes,
life
that is the right
vampire
answer.
I
Yes.
want.
That is the only answer. And Rich, do you have a vampire to add?
Yeah, to round us out, I honestly, because I was, when you asked this question, I was a little bit torn between What We Do in the Shadows universe and True Blood, actually. Because What We Do in the Shadows, for as fun as they are, they seem to kill people very haphazardly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of like without consciousness. And I feel like living in a world like that would probably be pretty horrifying as a human being. So I'm going to go with True Blood, because they seem to want to be integrated into society. They're not settling. They're not settling for being outcasts who just like want to murder at will. They're figuring out different ways to actually be part of the human race, which I think is pretty dope. So I'm going to go with the True Blood universe on this.
Having not seen more of the show, is there a contingency of the vampires that are like, no, we don't want to integrate. We are who we are. We will continue to kill people. I'm just curious. I don't know. Was that plot? I don't know. I'll have to keep watching to see if that plot
my God.
was
And
Tune
expanded.
in next week.
I will just say some of the people that are on this show will blow your mind. I am going to just little bit of like a teaser. A certain person from Law and Order SVU stars in this show for a couple of episodes, and it is magnificent.
You told me I'm
He needs
getting
to drink
Christopher
blood to
Maloney.
I am not saying it is or is not Christopher Maloney, but it might be.
Is it Ice V?
Oh my God.
Oh,
So let's talk a little bit about, first, thank you for that in-flight question. If you have them, we'll put out things on our Instagram. You can reach out to us as well by email, on our voicemail. But let's talk a little bit about the legacy of this show. So this show lasted for 7 seasons and 80 episodes. It actually did so well on its first season that they moved it from being a fall HBO show to a summer HBO show, because what are you going to do on a Sunday during the middle of the summer but watch HBO? So I want to mention a different show that we did earlier on this podcast, John from Cincinnati, excuse me, and how this show relates. So John from Cincinnati, on its first episode, had 3.4 million viewers. Mm-hmm. How many do we think True Blood had?
like 8.
3.4 million viewers.
6.4.
1.44 million viewers.
Well,
It
John
was
from
actually-
Cincinnati's supremacy. I'm telling you guys over and over.
It actually was seen as really, people were questioning whether or not the show would survive. But here's the wild change that happened. By the end of the first season in November, it was getting about 6.8 million views per episode, because we are also now in the beginning of the streaming era, thanks to I found out this week that Hulu was turning 15 years old.
Yep.
So, hey, congratulations. This is one of the shows that benefited from that. Most popular seasons were seasons 3 and 4, where they averaged on premiere 4.97 million viewers per episode, which is pretty solid. Let's talk a little bit about awards. The show was nominated for 134 different awards and won 44 of them, including Emmy for Outstanding Cast for a Drama Series, as well as Anna Paquin winning a Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actress in a Television Drama. This is also our first show to ever appear in the Scream Awards, which are awards given to horror-based properties.
Nice.
And it won most of its awards in the Scream Awards. Unfortunately, I'm very sad to say this does not win our Cradle to Grave award.
Yeah, I bet. This is not for teens.
Well, no.
There's so much
Wait
fucking.
for it. Wait for it. While it won some People's Choice Awards and was nominated for multiple Teen Choice Awards, it failed to receive a nomination for a Kids' Choice Award.
Good. It's a rated R show.
But a dog comes and licks a lady on the face. Like, that's
man.
such a
But it's a human
lassie
dog
moment.
licking someone on the face.
Oh, I
We
do
don't
say
know
I
that.
am covered in the slab.
So you can actually find all of the seasons of
today.
the show on DVD. If you are more in the streaming era, you can find it on HBO Max. And as we talked about at the start of this podcast, based off of, HBO and Discovery's current strategies of getting as many eyes on as many properties as possible, you can now find this on TNT as well. There was talk of this show being rebooted very recently, but the CEO of HBO, as recently as this month, when announcing the TNT simulcasting, said that there are a few scripts that have been passed around in development, but nothing is currently slated.
Yeah,
to
this was killed
happen.
last month. Unfortunately, it was going to be helmed by Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who is best known for his work as the showrunner and creator of Riverdale. So we could have been going full Riverdale, batshit cuckoo in the True Blood world, and we're not going to get to see that.
As long as Cole Sprouse isn't getting more work, I'm fine with that. And that is topical.
we won't call him Daddy.
Oh.
Hey, there we go, Erika. I'm very proud of you for that. But with the legacy sort of wrapped up, maybe some legacy in the future, Rich, we have now gotten to your game of the week.
Yeah. So this one I have called Two True Bloods and a Lie Blood. All right, I have compiled.
He stayed up all night working on that.
There's no bad ideas in brainstorming.
Oh, there can be. That's a challenge. All right, I have come up with 3 potential facts about the lore and the overall reception of True Blood as a whole, and I would love to see which one you guys can all group together and try to figure out which one is the one I made up. All right, so first potential fact about the show: Snoop Dogg made a rap song about True Blood. Mm-hmm. The second one: Anna Paquin wanted the role so badly she showed up to the audition covered in fake blood. And the third: a fan really made a True Blood drink and you can buy it online. Which one do you guys think is the fake?
Well,
Gosh.
this is one I'm going to take myself out of the running.
Because he knows
Erika
already.
And Max,
Okay.
what do you think is the lie?
So what I'm going to say about auditioning, especially as a woman, is if you're like a disheveled mom, you still want to be the hottest fucking disheveled mom. Like, you're still full glam, but like, oh, your hair's a little messy, or like your shirt's one sleeve's rolled up and one sleeve's down. Like, it doesn't matter if you're playing like mud dirt lady. You're the hottest mud dirt lady. Like casting directors, producers just cannot see past that. Like, it's just a human filter. So I have questions about Anna Paquin showing up in fake blood. Like, I'm like, but was she hot in it? Like, like was she
Who isn't?
She look
was
good?
her face not covered in blood? Like, you still have to want to be the most like fuckable person in that character.
Yeah, it didn't even matter that Anna Paquin had an Oscar. Is she hot?
It sucks. That's just what it is. Like, yeah. Oh, you've got the shortest skirt, the highest heels, and, for chemistry read, like, you actually flirt. Like, it's just So that's the one that makes me question, because I feel like the True Blood could be not actually blood, but like some cocktail mixer you could buy. And Snoop, he has a rap song about like motivating kids to do their best. Like he's got range.
The man could rap about anything.
Truly. So I don't. I'm feeling the second, like Anna Paquin wanted the role so badly she showed up to the audition covered in fake blood. The Uber rating, you'd have to bring your own trash bags to cover the seats. Like, if it's your own car, like that's a mess.
The Uber rating.
I just want to imagine her like pouring the blood out while she's in the room with everyone else, and they're like, "Oh shit, where do I get the fake blood?"
Right. Oh yeah, that definitely intimidates all the other actresses. Like, that one feels
Max,
not true to me.
what do you think?
So breaking it down here, Snoop Dogg has never said no to a commercial opportunity once in his life, so he's probably done a song about True Blood. I don't know if this is true or not, but like, don't buy food and drink from like influencers and people online. Just don't do it. It's not FDA approved.
It's
You're
the new
not gonna
pink
feel
sauce.
Well. Yeah,
Oh,
don't
God.
buy
That's in
red
Walmart
sauce.
now.
What?
Yeah.
Pink sauce
Yeah,
got
don't-
approved by the FDA, and it's actually
They
sold
really
in
made it.
Walmarts now.
Don't buy pink sauce. Don't buy red sauce. Don't buy any of these things that you see from people's Etsy shops. God, yeah. I feel like I have to go with the Anna Paquin one as well, because like I could believe that somebody made like a Bloody Mary mix or something and True Blood themed it like as a bootleg. Snoop Dogg, I don't know, has probably made a rap song for every single HBO series, like dating back to 1997. So I'm gonna just go with the Anna Paquin one.
Well, both of your instincts are absolutely correct, because while Anna Paquin did aggressively pursue this role in particular, they were not casting blonde women. That was one thing. They were only going with brunettes, but she kept going and telling her management to go after this one particular role. Snoop Dogg did, in fact, make a rap called "Oh Sookie" because he had a crush on the character. And someone did, in fact, sell a real knockoff of True Blood that you could purchase online.
Well, Rich, thank you so much for your game of the week. All right. Well, our plane is coming to a land, and we have two final questions for each of you. Would you continue watching this show? And do you think this show could be remade for today? Erika, as our guest, what do you think?
Absolutely. I'm going to continue to. I already told my partner Winston, I was like, we're going to start watching True Blood. I was like, that's our new. What are we doing tonight after dinner? We're watching True Blood show. We're not going to rewatch Succession again, and all the until the new season starts. Like, we're going to watch True Blood. So yeah, absolutely. And I do think it could be remade today. I think the civil rights allegories stand just as much as today with everything that's being thrown and the assault on the LGBTQ community. Like, I think those themes still resonate hard, and I also just think if it were made now, it might even be sexier.
Yeah.
Like HBO
Yeah.
was like, "Oh, we're doing sex," and it's like, "No, babes, you're just
We can
having
see
sex."
we can see penis on White Lotus. Why not see it on
We
True
can see
Blood?
dong now. I can see
Yeah.
whole. Like,
We've
Let's see it.
bust through the dong and hole glass ceiling.
yes, let's put a camera out through a vagina into a shot. Like,
Wow.
there's that aerial shot. Yeah, I'm just saying it's happening. There'll be a drone.
Wow,
through
like the opening
vagina
scene
to
of
the
Boogie Nights.
atmosphere.
I want a
100%.
reverse
It's gonna happen.
colonoscopy happening on screen.
Show me whole. Like, yeah, it's gonna. I think it'd be much sexier today too.
Max, what about you?
So, as much fun as I had watching this episode, I don't think I'm going to keep going on with True Blood. I think it's effective. I think it definitely can suck you in, and I can see how people do, like, grab onto this show and love it. I don't think I'm one of those people. As for it being made today, I mean, until a month ago, yeah, it was going to be remade. So, obviously, there's still interest in this. Vampires are by far the fucking hottest of these supernatural beings. Mummies are far too covered. Frankenstein monsters just don't
Whoa.
give that sex appeal.
Well, hold on.
Incorrect,
You
unless
can
they're played by
mix-
Peter Boyle.
You can mix parts from all different folks
Wow.
and make a mega person.
That's right.
Okay, I will reevaluate my Frankenstein monster take. However,
saying.
mummies are far too covered for 2023 peak TV. I wouldn't be surprised if something of this sort did come down the pipeline eventually.
Absolutely.
Rich, what about you?
Absolutely, I'm watching episode 2 on this. Like, I'm really hoping the acting gets better, but overall, like, and I have pretty like intense confidence that it would. But yeah, I mean, they set up a lot of like cliffhangers about the backstory of Sookie and her family and everything, the backstory of like how the vampire infestation came to be and stuff like that. It is really like, I don't know, I'm going for it. And yeah, I think it could be made today for exactly the reasons Erika said. Like, I mean, there's nothing more prescient right now than people attacking the LGBTQ community. Unfortunately, we have just regressed to that particular fight again. Yeah. And yeah, I think having a class of people that are under attack again and would lend itself very, very well to this narrative. And there's gonna be a lot more hole in it, like you said.
Fun fact, Snoop Dogg, I own this album, but Game of Thrones did a mixtape that was rap and metal.
What?
Called Catch the Thrones. Everyone should download it. And Snoop Dogg did the Lannister theme song. And I quote, "We got the power, 7 kingdoms strong."
Wow.
There is a Snoop Dogg rap.
Damn, Snoop. When does he sleep?
I will end us out with 100% this show could be remade. I hope that someday HBO is being run to actually make art rather than be making all the money. Because I think we are losing out on a lot of amazing stuff. I have hope, right? Amazon just picked up a Batman animated series that got canceled by HBO a couple weeks ago, so there's hope yet maybe for True Blood someday. As far as me watching this is definitely something I can see just watching by myself again. It's been such a long time since I've watched this show, and I think that it deserves at least a few more episodes, if not a full season review. With that said, our plane has come to a land, and so has the end of this podcast. But I would love to make sure that everyone knows where to find y'all. Erika, 1, thank you so much for coming on this podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
But 2, where can we find you?
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun, and I'm excited to find like a new old show to like really invest in. But you can find me personally at iconic Erika Curry. I'm an aspiring icon, not there yet.
Nice.
But you can find the podcast Trashy Trashy Podcast on any of your podcast players. We're at Trashy Trashy Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And we talk about, again, garbage people, trashy news stories. We're the authority. So let us know if you have any trash stories.
I'm subscribing today.
Thank you.
Max, where can we find you?
Oh, you could find me pulled up to the bar in Baldtown, Louisiana at Merlette's Bar and Grill. You can find me on all things social media at Maxwell Sing. You can find original sketch comedy for myself and Rich on TikTok at Dadwagon Comedy as well.
And you can find me cracking open a couple cold ones of True Blood with the boys, and on Instagram at Damn That's Rich.
And you can find me trying to figure out, is Overall Daddy really a daddy? You can also find me at RunJeffRun on Instagram and Twitter. You can find the TV Pilots License on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as our TikTok at TV Pilots License. If you have a question about the show or for our next episode, make sure to shoot us an email at tvpilotslicense@gmail.com or give us a call at 213-290-1713. Make sure to watch out for sneak previews of upcoming episodes. But with the plane landed and the seatbelt sign off, we look forward to flying the bright skies of the TV world with you again soon. And until then, Sookie.